Hey guys, so I've received some comments in the past in terms of my vlogs where if I could share some, Dueling book gameplay for Branded Despia. So I thought I'd finally get to it. Now, of course, I'm no Nightfall. And speaking of Nightfall, he does offer Branded Despia coaching. So I'll link his Twitter down below. He's actually one of the people I've talked with. I've done a profile with him like about over a year ago at least. And so I actually learned some Branded Despia tips from him as well when I first started playing this deck. So big thanks to him. So basically, I thought I'd go through some replays, but also I want to use this as a space for all of us to maybe bounce back ideas in terms of what other plays I could have done. I'm certainly here to learn as well. So I guess before we get to the replays, I also wanted to highlight some of the interactions that came up for me personally recently at some of the tournaments that I'd like to go over, and then we can go over to the replays. So the first example came when I got drolled after adding Branded Fusion off of a Luber. Droll for the most part against Branded Despia, not really great. Sometimes it can actually do some damage. I happen to have a Nadir Servant though, so remember you can actually also add from the grave as well. So you can still get that extra deck send, which can really come up. The other three cards were something else, but for now, purpose of this video, I'm just kind of using these as like blank. So basically, after getting drolled, so I go Branded Fusion. Normally, you would send Lubellion and Albaz, for example. That's kind of like the default play if you have a Luber on board. But because I had Nadir Servant, I decided to actually go into the Lubellion, the Albion Lubellion route because I wanted to get that Albaz remaining in the grave. And usually when I want to have an Albaz left in grave, I usually send like a Shrouded Dragon because it does treat itself as Albaz in the grave and on the field, and it's a little bit more flexible in case you get hand trapped. Like let's say you get Impermanent like the Lubellion, then you just, otherwise if you sent two Albazes, then you already got two out of the deck, which is gonna really hurt you in the grind game. So here we're gonna summon the Lubellion. I mean, in this example, I guess you could technically make Dragoon, but we're just assuming this is just a complete blank. Normally I would leave the Albion in the grave, but in this example, because we want to just add it back and we're also under droll, we're just going to actually just put back that Shrouded Dragon again. Really doesn't really matter. It's just going to go straight back. So we do have Mirror Jade here. So now, because of, again, under droll, you can still use this if you can have a target ingredient that you can add. So we're going to actually add back the Albaz. And so this way we get to still send the Titanic Cloud. So pretend like the imperms weren't even anything really. But in end phase, what I did was basically with the Titanic Cloud, I would summon the Clem, and then I dumped the Cartesia. Also, I should probably clarify the whole reason for this was I wanted to try to gimmick lock game 1, of course. And then we're actually going to Mirror Jade here, get rid of the Albion, or rather, sorry, a Luber, just so we can trigger the Quem. And then Quem would bring back that Cartesia, and now we also still have that Shrouded Dragon in the end phase to set something. So basically what you can see here is you do have to let your opponent go into main phase, unfortunately, but you can like trigger this so that you can summon, let's say, Granule, and then you would dump that Gaming Puppet, and then you have the Branded in red, which in this case, Albaz would be in the grave now because you fuse away with Cartesia, and then you would just make, using Granule as well as something like Albaz, make the Sanctifier, and now you can just basically gimmick lock your opponent. Keep in mind, your opponent also has this droll in the graveyard in case you were missing like another target you could summon for some reason. So yeah. So another interaction that came up for me was basically I was under skill drain. My opponent had like a format Zeus or something, which doesn't actually matter because of course he's under skill drain as well. And so basically just using ways to kind of clear your field as you trigger, like after you trigger their effect, so they can actually resolve, because skill drain, it's only for monsters on the field. So basically what I did was something like chain 1 Lubellion, chain 2 Cartesia, and then I just chained 3 Branded Red. This is nothing specific to Branded really, right? It's more so kind of generic concept, but that's something that you need to kind of, I guess, take advantage of. So you want to make sure you clear these guys so that their things will resolve. So basically what ended up happening was you have something like you basically are able to resolve, let's say, the Lubellion now, or rather, no, sorry, we should go with Cartesia first. I happen to have an Albaz at the time. Really, it could have been anything else, but as long as I had a way to, bring out 3300 Chimera, which is, of course, pretty strong in terms of at least under skill drain. So basically, I was able to resolve the Cartesia. Of course, I can't resolve like Guardian Chimera, but again, and don't forget, the Lubellion also still gets to resolve, and I was able to like place the Branded Loss and kind of like attack over like the Zeus and attack over the Mirror Jade. So again, just kind of something straightforward, but just something that you want to take advantage of in terms of with like Branded in red and something like skill drain. Alright, so let's just get to the first example, which is against Rescue Ace with like Snake Eye, Fire King stuff, which, it's a deck that's definitely fallen quite hard off C compared to what it was. So he's going to start off with the Wanted. So here, going into the Witch, honestly, like I did see the rescue stuff. I thought maybe, I know I was kind of getting a high rolly and going just imperm here. Realistically, I should probably wait. I did find when I was watching like those, you know, high rated DB replays of like rescue players back when rescue was tier 1, I was finding they were actually imperming on like the hydrant rather than like, let's say, waiting on turbulence, because sometimes, you know, if they have like access to like emergency, I guess it kind of ends up being you're sort of in this like checkmate situation. So, you know, I do get punished here. I probably should have waited, but you know what, just time to experiment really while on Dueling Book, I guess. So he's going to be able to set 4 off the turbulence, which, to be honest with you, for Branded Despia, I find the set is not that crazy. I mean, like, it's so strong. Any kind of like effect negation on a Luber, sure, but I find, you know, it's not too terrible. Like, I never feel that it's an auto lose if they manage to get to set 4. I find it's still pretty good chance for me. So here we are, of course, we're gonna start with the high spirits. Sending Titanic Cloud. You can also send Ash Dragon. It really depends on, you know, if, like, let's say Branded Fusion resolves, then it would have been nice if you just summon Albion that way, and you don't kind of like duplicate that by already having an Albion engraved with the high spirits. We're gonna go with the Shroud Dragon, draw 1. Retribution, target the Branded Fusion. So we're good so far. Hopefully that last card is not Ash. I did also consider summoning Albaz off of the Fusion deployment. But of course, he does have not only the negate but also a pop, like that just not going to go through. He's going to bring, I guess, the Preventer. And then, or rather, oh yeah, so Preventer, he's going to try to book a Moon that. Of course, we're just going to have to chain here and go into Granule. And so we're going to have to dump off that. And we're going to dump the Gimmick Puppet just in case, you know, for... I guess we're not going to be able to completely clear this board, of course, so we just want to at least do some chipping at it and then prevent them from playing the next turn and then just come back again. That's sort of how I really play a lot in game 1, really. Like, I find Gimmick Puppet locking, going second in game 1 actually happens quite a lot. He's going to try to Princess bring back. We do fortunately have, of course, the Mercurial to negate that. We have Sanctifier on field. I'm dumb. I obviously cannot attack Hydrant. So here, now with the Preventer, is going to get the Turbulence back. And then, this was also a mistake. I'm making a lot of misplays here. I cannot do that. I quickly fixed that because that was during damage step. But it's an effect that I find is pretty easy to forget in terms of its granule effect. So I'm making a lot of misplays here, but it's okay. So we're going to get the Cartesia back. And then Titanic Clad. We're going to summon the Albaz. Of course, he does have the negate, but we're just going to try to get that out of the way. Just so that, you know, we can, for example, we still have the Branded Red play as well. We're going to go Alert, get the Airlifter. And in DP, we're just going to try to Gimmick Lock him, basically. So we get the Quem. He's going to get the Puppet. So he's at least locked out his special. We do have Quem here to try to dump. Honestly, it's not really going to do much. So we do at least get also the negate out of the way, which is nice. He's going to add the Impulse off the Hydrant. Airlifter adds HQ. This field spell is really crazy in the grind game. So we do have to get rid of it, basically. And so, fortunately, we still have the Branded Red here to make the Chimera play. And we're just going to pop the field spell as well as Turbulence. Just because, honestly, it didn't really matter. He had multiple guys with like 3,000 because the big Amber Whale is right at 3k, I believe. So, unfortunately, we do lose Sanctifier here. So in end phase, because Sanctifier went to the grave, we do get Cartesia. If you're playing this in real life, you definitely always have to make the habit of checking your graveyard, just fan it out. Make sure you have triggers, especially like Branded High Spirits. That's another one you can forget, but you can only do one of the 2 effects, remember that. So we're going to get Tragedy here, get the Alluber. We do have Albaz engraved, I believe, so we're gonna just special the Cartesia and summon the Alluber. We'll just try to Ash that. I don't think it's gonna come up too much. He's gonna Imperm Alluber, we're gonna chain, and then he has a Veg Veiler, which is a pretty crazy sequence, honestly. But at the same time, he doesn't have much left on his board, so we're just gonna chip away at it, and we're unfortunately not gonna be able to Gimmick Lock anymore. We don't have Sanctifier at the moment, but at least he has kind of nothing, really. So he looks like he scoops, and we're gonna go right into game 2. He's gonna start off with the Wanted again. We do have Ash. So this is another thing. To be honest with you, I was actually told to just Ash on the original Sinful. I mean, let me know what you guys think. I tried it. I mean, he had emergency anyways, but you know what? I mean, maybe it's like the safest thing to do. I'm not sure. Certainly let me know. But of course, Rescue is not really that common anymore. So we're gonna get the Alert here. Add the Turbulence. And then summon the Turbulence and then set 4. And then he has the wanted draw as well. Goes into Hida. He does have my Ash to play around with. And goes into Appaloosa, which, you know what, sometimes it can actually be pretty good against Branded Despia. Although, luckily, our guys are, like, decent attack for their normal summons at least. Luber, Albaz being 1800. We're going to target the Hydrant for the call by, and, you know, as much as I want the Branded Fusion, realistically, I can't actually get to it because of Appaloosa anyways. So we're going to go hand. He did have an Ash, so we ripped that out. Not that I have Branded Fusion per se, but, you know, I'm going to, like, try to, like, Granule Send, and that Albion effect, you know, they can always Ash that instead, and so that can still kind of hurt as well, right? So we don't have too much, unfortunately, but you know what? He doesn't have any interruptions at this point either, because he does need, like, the Hydrant monsters for their traps. So we're going to go with the Granule. And we'll just dump that Albion Dragon. And then end phase, we're just going to have just the Branded Red setup. And then just get the Cartesia back. He's going to start with the Bonfire. I did know this actually because of what I saw in his hand. He's going to go Poplar. And we're going to go with the Granule. He actually happens to draw Ash that I spun back anyways. Original Sinful Lobe. So, of course, at this point, I do know, you know, his field is pretty lackluster. We just have to get rid of, like, the face-up card, essentially, for that, to prevent that original from going off. So, luckily, we have, like, the Lobelian. And basically, we can just make a Mirror Jade. And we just use its effect right away, just to get rid of the Poplar. And we also get some follow-up too, which is always nice. We get Branded Fusion, we get Cartesia back. Like, it's pretty good, and he doesn't mid defeat there. Alright, so the next replay is against Floowandereeze, which, you know, especially at like a regional level, you're probably going to see this deck still a lot. It's a deck that I personally struggle against, I find, with Branded. I mean, for one, Shifter, just really, really strong. And of course, Gimmick Lock doesn't actually do anything. That's one of the downsides of me, like, trying to do like a Gimmick Lock game one. But at the same time, I always find that, you know, regardless of my setup, I always have like a good way to still have other follow-up plays. You know, I still have like a Branded Red live, like other, whatever, hand traps, or I don't know. There's still a decent amount of interruptions outside of that Gimmick Lock. So, you know, I think it's still pretty fine. We're going to just do like our typical setup. I like to do it this way for game one. Again, I want to save that Gimmick, or rather Branded Red for like a Chimera play, just in case that's better depending on the matchup, for example, rather than using it on like Sanctifier, which, you know, if you're playing like the Gimmick Lock game one, like you're probably shotgunning that Branded Red anyways, and then to make Sanctifier, which, and then you'll also have a Mirror Jade with that kind of setup. But at the same time, again, you know, it depends, Mirror Jade or Guardian Chimera, whichever is better depending on matchup. I wouldn't know in a game one situation. Interestingly enough though, and I'll kind of get to it shortly, so we're just going to add back the Cartesia. And so he actually, I believe, just scoops here, which doesn't really make sense, I guess, because he's playing Floowandereeze. And, you know, this lock in itself isn't going to do anything. I think maybe his hand wasn't that amazing. I might as well scoop. And it actually led me to think that this was like a special summon based kind of, definitely not Floowandereeze, right? Basically, when they scoop like that. So, you know, it might potentially mess up like your siding patterns. He does start with the duality. Super Poly, I find, you know, some people I find say it's so good against Floowandereeze. Personally, I think it's okay. Like, sure, it can come up definitely, you know, in terms of making like Garura, but at the same time, you know, they still have like Mad, they still have Advent. Like, it's, I don't know, I find it's not enough usually. So he's gonna do his like typical, very standard Floowandereeze stuff. Basically getting to the M10 setup and then just like add the traps, set it, and then that's about it, which means, you know, they probably have some hand traps. Luckily, they don't have map though, which is kind of nice. So we're going to start with the deployment, and then remember to special things in defense mode, of course, against something like rather Floowandereeze, just so you don't get it negated. So we have a Luber. Unfortunately, we are hit with an Ash. So we're going to start with the Cartesia Fusion then, go into Granule, use that effect to dump. Of course, so, you know, post-side, if I'm going first against Floowandereeze, I do play Idol, which is like basically Gimmick Lock for Floowandereeze, but of course I'm going second, so I'm not putting that in. And so we're just going to go right into end phase. He actually allows it without playing the trap, which basically means I can actually use Branded Red to pop the trap before he gets back to his like main phase, I guess. I mean, I figured I might as well get rid of it in case that becomes a problem in the future. And we also get to draw 2 as well. So we draw Nib, which comes up against Floowandereeze sometimes. Not always, but, you know, I find when they go for the push, it can definitely come up. So we're gonna basically have to go through like the whole Thunder cycle again. He's gonna get Apex Avian. This getting rid of that with Super Volley, admittedly, yes, that is actually really good. Just trying to get rid of both Apex as well as the Mega Ryza, and then their kind of game plan is sort of really bad, right? Like those are like kind of like the main ways to play around things. They do have the unexplored wins, which honestly is pretty crazy because the tributing part is not once per turn. Really, really strong. So he's gonna get the Apex Avian now, gets the Toucan back. He's gonna be able to attack over really anything. So Guardian Chimera is dead. At this point, I decided to just get rid of the Apex and the M-Pen, so we can make something like the Garura. And then he does have the Unexplored, which he's trying to draw. We're at least going to Ash that. And at this point, we do have Nib, just so we can draw off Garura, because our hand is like obviously not that spectacular. So we are going to have to draw and Infinite Impermanence, and it's not that great at this point. And so we're actually going to also try to Fusion Duplication phase. DD Crow on that is really strong. You can also Bell it as well. So keep that in mind if you're playing against Branded Despia. Fusion Duplication is really, really strong. So we're going to start off with the Branded Fusion. He's going to go with the Trap now. Make the Albion as the Mega Ryza. And he's just going to tribute over my Albion as well. So we just resolve the Albion first, and then we're going to trigger the Mirror Jade. And then he's going to spin back the Mirror Jade as well as the Albion. The Nibiru was actually supposed to be flipped down at this point because of the Dreaming Town. I did kind of forget that, but we do fix it, although that also kind of messes me up a little bit in the future. Because, for example, Nib was supposed to be flipped, and I could have actually flipped it face up, of course, because it's like still my turn. But because I kind of did that retroactively, I kind of like forgot about that. So we're just going to get the Lubellion out, and then put the Titanic Cloud, which gets us access to Quem in the end phase. And we're just going to dump the Cartesia just so we get some hand advantage, I guess. Doesn't really do too much there. He's going to start off and get the Toucan, get the M-Pen. M-Pen, I will tribute over the Lubellion as well. And finally gets access to the map. Summons the Robina, gets the other Robina back, as well as the Eaglin. And then also gets the Simorgberg. Didn't realize he was playing that as well. Just gonna, and this is where if Nibiru was gonna attack with Elise, would have survived that attack. But we do get our field cleared at this point. And he's also gonna be able to draw here as well. So 6 cards, not looking too good. Map is always nice as well. And then we're just gonna bring out the, obviously not Quem, I clicked the wrong thing, but we're just gonna bring out the Albaz just to get it on the field. Just because, we do have Cartesia and kind of we don't really have like Branded Fusion stuff, so we're just gonna, or rather, we're gonna go with the Cartesia so we can get into like Albion. And surprisingly, it all goes through. So we are gonna summon the Albion and then chainlink to Lost, and we can just summon the Shrouded Dragon now, and we're gonna summon out the Mirror Jade. Because that M-Pen is kind of nice in terms of its negate effect. Now we actually do have access to Branded Fusion, drawing the draw. Not nice. And then we're going to get rid of the M-Pen. I'm running out of targets, that's why I have to send Sanctify at this point. But you know what, hopefully this does resolve. And then we do have, somehow he has like, whatever, how many cards in hand, but it's still looking good. We're just going to get rid of the Evenly, play just the one actually, just kind of like something alongside of Frost. I think it's pretty good right now. And so now we're actually in a pretty good position because we actually have enough for game. Because remember, we do still have the Lubellion, just to change that defense position into something that's an attack position monster, so we have enough for our game. Anyways, guys, those were just a couple replays in terms of Branded Despia gameplay, so hopefully you found that enjoyable. Definitely let me know in the comments, what other plays you would have done. I'm really here to learn as well. So anyways, let me know if you like that. I can continue to do these in the future as well. Again, definitely go check out Nightfall. He offers Branded Despia coaching. Definitely a much better resource to go to than I am. But anyways, huge thanks to all of you for watching. Big thanks to my sponsors and Patreons as always. And well, take care, guys.